Halloween is only a couple of days away, which makes me super late to the party. But if you already exhausted all the newest AAA horror games such as Silent Hill F and already replayed all the classic Resident Evil along with the Amnesia series, then this video might be for you, because I'll be talking about lesser known horror games that might slip under your radar, but still worth your time. The Backroom 1998 is a sort of found footage horror game where your character wakes up in a world of backrooms that originally based on a creepypasta. As usual, you'll be running, crouching, hiding in the lockers, and collecting necessary items in order to escape back to your world. Now, it can be difficult not to get lost, mostly again because of the darn yellow walls everywhere, but eventually you'll get familiar with the place. The game is pretty short, like a lot of games on this list, but it packs quite a punch. There's a lot of jump scares, and some of them are actually well made. And the whole visual style of an old VHS camera really adds to the charm. It made the whole thing look like, well, 1998.
Oh, please stop!
I did enjoy my time with the first Tormented Souls, but it didn't win me over like Signalis, which I played around the same time back in the day. But man, the sequel is incredible. The developers kept everything that the original was so praised for and made it all even better. The sequel has even better visuals, a much better story, and the monsters this time are actually intimidating and pose more threat. And unlike the original, this time the game takes you to a variety of different locations, so you won't be spending the whole game exploring just one. As of today, I played my fair share of video games that try to tackle serious life subjects. Unfortunately, not all of them can deliver it well. Well, this one definitely can. Bad Cheese is a game that centers around the horrors of domestic abuse, and that's what makes it truly terrifying. Because it's real, and lots of people had unfortunately gone through it. And some of you might even feel uncomfortable playing it. You'll be playing as a little child that has to do all sorts of house chores in order to please his alcoholic father. And if the father gets mad, well, let's just say there are some horrible things can happen. The game uses the cute black and white graphics to make it look like a 1920s Mickey Mouse cartoon, and your character is actually an anthropomorphic mouse. But don't let the visuals fool you. This is a horror game. Now, I probably wouldn't recommend this to any horror fan, but as long as you know what you're getting into, this is definitely worth checking out.
You have 10 seconds, or you'll be punished!
Post Trauma is a survival horror game heavily inspired by Silent Hill. You can see it in the visuals, music, level design, and pretty much everything else. But that's not a bad thing. Despite being a semi-copycat of Silent Hill, it masterfully copies it. The game is very atmospheric, with gorgeous visuals and amazing camera work. The combat is pretty clunky, but I found the combat encounters are pretty rare. It's more of a puzzle-heavy game. And the puzzles are actually pretty interesting, and can be fairly challenging if you're not paying attention. The story aspect is not super strong, but serviceable enough to keep you guessing. So if you love Silent Hill, you will like Post Trauma. Wolfmaid is probably the friendliest horror game I ever played. You'll hop into the role of a new transfer student that finds himself trapped in a school at nighttime. And the only objective you'll have is to find your way out, while dodging your classmate Freya, who for some reason turned into a wolf girl. Don't worry, Freya doesn't want to kill you. She wants something else. Despite the absolute lack of blood and violence, I found this game still can be pretty tense at times. You will be replaying the same level, but your objective every time will be different. Also, the further you progress, the more upgrades your pursuer is going to have in her arsenal. And if you spot it, running away and hiding will be more and more difficult, especially later in the game. Now, I do understand that this title might look like one big joke, and in some ways it is, but it still packs its fair share of fun. So, if you want to have a little break from nasty monsters, pools of blood, torn limbs, this game can provide that pseudo soothing experience before you go back to the real stuff. And in case your childhood fear wasn't being murdered by killer clowns, zombies, or demons, but rather being caught by a cute busty wolf girl who wants to use you as a breeding stock, then yes, this game can be pretty terrifying. While some sort of apocalypse slowly unfolds outside of your house, lots of visitors are going to come to your front door in order to ask for shelter, and you will have to decide if you trust them enough to let them in. In the game called No, I'm Not a Human, you'll be constantly engaging in dialogue with your visitors, along with checking them for the physical symptoms that will help you to identify if they are human or a monster. The dialogue is usually pretty brief and straightforward, so don't worry, it's not a visual novel. Eventually, you'll have to decide who gets to live and who doesn't, based on the information you collected, hoping you made the right choice. The game does have an unusual art style to the point that some people could just downright call it ugly, but if you can pass the art style, you'll be rewarded with a very tense and incredibly unique horror experience. What would happen if you take the first Resident Evil and remake it with 16-bit graphics? Well, you will have Dead of Darkness. If you ever played the first Resident Evil on PlayStation 1, you will feel right at home here. From the Spencer-like mansion with piano room, night statues that you have to move around, a painting puzzle, and then underground facilities, all filled with zombies and monsters. Despite the cute-looking graphics, the game tries to be very serious. And it kinda succeeds. It also has full voice acting, which I found pretty decent. And did I mention that apart from the health bar, there's also a sanity meter, and when it gets full, the game will throw some hilarious things at you. There are two games I want to add as honorable mentions in case you missed it last Halloween. One of them is going to be Hollow Body, a pretty cool PS2-like survival horror with a little bit of cyberpunk thrown in the mix. The other one is called Steel Wakes the Deep, a game that disappointed quite a lot of horror fans for being not very scary and also incredibly linear. And I do agree with that to a certain extent, but the game compensates for this by being visually stunning and having an interesting setting, and very good voice acting. There's also a DLC that recently came out called Siren's Rest, both worth checking out in my opinion, if you haven't yet. Okay, there are a couple of even older games that didn't receive as much love as I think they deserved. One of them is Daymare 2 Sandcastle, a very well made sequel, far superior to the original if you ask me. And how often do we have a horror game set in freaking Area 51? I feel like a lot of reviewers were pretty harsh to this title. Or maybe there's just something wrong with me. And another game is Withering Rooms. If you like the old-time classic called American McGee Alice and its sequel Alice Madness Returns, you will definitely feel right at home here. A Metroidvania survival horror RPG set in a beautifully horrific dreamlike world, with pretty deep combat customization and an awesome soundtrack. Anyways, that's all I have for you for today. Thanks for watching and happy Halloween.